Why wasn't Enola Holmes mentioned in the original Sherlock Holmes book? Where does the young character come from, and why is she so important? How did the movie even get made? Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that Millie Bobby Brown's latest movie is pretty important. Netflix has been busy promoting the feature for a while now, and now it's finally hit our screens. Although the character of Enola Holmes is finally here, we still have some burning questions. Who is Enola? Why have we never heard that Sherlock Holmes has a younger sister before? And why is it suddenly time for her to be in the world now? If you want to know the answers, you'll have to stick around. In case you didn't know, Sherlock Holmes is a pretty big deal. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle first introduced the character way back in 1887 in A Study in Scarlet. Since then, he went on to become the most famous fictional detective of all time. So famous that several movies have been made about the character, including the ones from a few years ago featuring Robert Downey Jr. as Holmes and Jude Law as his right-hand man, Watson. While we've seen a lot about the detective and followed him on some seriously crazy journeys over the years, we always got the impression that he was a lone wolf and not a family man. That's how he was meant to be. That's why it was kind of surprising when Millie rocked up and said she's Enola Holmes, Sherlock's little sister. As it turns out, Enola really has nothing to do with the version of Sherlock that most of us know and love at all. Instead, she's the creation of modern-day writer Nancy Springer, who wrote an entire book series called The Enola Holmes Mysteries back in the 2000s. The first book was actually released back in 2006, so Enola has been kicking around for a while. There are 6 books in total, including The Case of the Left-Handed Lady, The Case of the Bizarre Bouquets, The Case of the Peculiar Pink Fan, The Case of the Cryptic Crinoline, and The Case of the Gypsy Goodbye. So why did Springer feel like Sherlock needed a sister? Weren't the original books good enough? It's actually not quite as deep as you might think. An editor called Springer and asked her to write something based in deepest, darkest London, as it probably would sell. Talking to First Post, the award-winning author said, "Could I give Sherlock Holmes a daughter as I had Robin Hood? No, absolutely not. Holmes is such a thoroughgoing bachelor, so I envisioned a sister for him, and somehow I knew at once that her name would be Enola." The rest was history. Springer knew that she wanted to stick to the overall feel of the world that Conan Doyle had created, but decided pretty early on that Enola wouldn't be the same as Sherlock. Instead, she would be a finder of the lot, and not just another crime-solving detective. After all, that would be a little boring. There's also one other major difference that's pretty obvious. Enola is a girl in a really male-dominated world, which is what makes her so special. When the story is set back in the Victorian era, men really had more of a say in everything than women. Enola turns that narrative on its head. She might be 20 years younger than her brother, but she's just as capable. Unlike her brothers, Enola spent her entire childhood at the family estate with her mom, Eudora, and not solving murders in the big city of London. Both she and her mother have a much different view of the world than the men in the family. They don't do what society says they should as women. Honestly, we're here for it, and we need more movies like this that shakes up these roles. It's awesome to see that historical movies can still be made, but with a twist. Nancy Springer put it best when she said, "All fiction was dominated by male-centric narrative until recently, so characters like Enola must struggle against the weight of hundreds of years of tradition. Luckily, it is not difficult for them to do so. Female-centric fiction seems to strike most readers as fresh, new, and delightful." So now we know a little bit about the origins of the character. What about the origins of the movie? Without Millie, Enola Holmes wouldn't have happened at all. In a recent interview with Vogue, Millie said, "It all started with the book by Nancy Springer. My older sister Paige read it first, and then I read it. I had a gut feeling I wanted to bring it to life, and I was like, how do we get this done? Then my incredible dad said, we're gonna find a way. We took it to the studio, Legendary Pictures, and explained the premise and why this story needs to be told. I don't think I've ever seen a young female British lead in a film. Obviously, we have Hermione from Harry Potter, but she wasn't the lead, so we wanted to make something that would inspire young girls." Brown has already had heaps of praise for her performance in the movie, and with so much material to work with, it's likely we'll be seeing a sequel. Sherlock Holmes may have been the inspiration behind the character, but Enola stands on her own 2 feet. She even outshines the original detective, and that takes some doing, considering he's been around for well over 100 years. When it comes to the entertainment business, is there anything Millie Bobby Brown can't do? First Stranger Things, and now this, and she's just 16. What do you think? Is Enola the character we've all needed, or was Sherlock better off without her? Do you love the movie as much as we do? Let us know in the comments.